In this video, I'm going to explain the different types of color wheels so that you will never get caught in this dilemma where everything you've been told about color theory suddenly falls apart. Let's start off by playing a round of the color wheel picking game. So I'd like you to figure out which of these 5 color wheels represents the true color wheel. Look through them, you'll see they're all a little bit different. Obviously they don't look exactly like a wheel, but they show the relationships of the colors. So go through, and when you're confident, pick your number and we'll move on. I'm going to do a countdown, so if you don't pick by the time I finished, pause the video. 3, 2, 1. Before I show you the answer, I want to show you where I got the answer. We're going to go through a paper called What is the Opposite of Blue? The Language of Color Wheels. This has the answer to what is the true color wheel. And we're just going to look at the color wheel. So if you want to go deeper into the subject, this is an excellent paper. Okay, it's time for me to admit that I sort of fibbed a little bit. There's not really a true color wheel. Instead, we have multiple types of color wheels, and they've each been designed for different applications, for different purposes, based on different philosophies. The first of the color wheels is the one developed by Sir Isaac Newton in his bedroom. And we don't really use it today, and you really should not use it because it's a little bit off, and we have much better color wheels today that are far more precise. But we pay it homage because Sir Isaac Newton is the person who's credited with having discovered the color wheel. So we just have it here for historical reasons, and you'll see it in textbooks and different places, but it's not a tool we really use. Now, the next one, the artist color wheel, that's a lot more practical. So that one historically is a tool that people would use for color harmony. That's a far superior tool when it comes to trying to work with the aesthetic qualities of color to come up with good contrast for painting and different compositions and creative applications. But you can't really use it in a digital environment. So that's not the tool we'll be going a bit more in depth into. The printer's color wheel is perhaps one of the most important. And the reason is that this is the color wheel that we use in computers. So we use it for visual displays, but we also use it for print reproduction. So let me show you why. Take a look at this. In this wheel, you've got RGB. So that's what we use to create colors on digital displays. But look what else you have. You have CMY. So that's what we use to create colors in print publications. Now, you'll see that the two are perfect opposites. And so this is really the color wheel that we work with most of the time. And now you probably can start to see why what you've been taught about color theory might not translate over, because you can see, look how different the artist color wheel is from the printers, right? So if blue and orange are nice opposites that are complementary, well, now you've got blue and yellow. It's close, right? See, orange is just to the side, but it doesn't quite line up, and green and red, and so it's green and magenta. So it's different, and this can drive you crazy if you don't know about it. So now you know about it. Let's move on. Next, we have Munsell. So Munsell is a proprietary system. I think it's excellent, and it was one of the, historical, more accurate systems. So if you were to go back in the history of color wheels, Newton invented it. You wouldn't use it because it was, it was the first cut. But the Munsell system is excellent. So it's been around for a while. It was like an early color system that was very successful. Now it's mainly used as a commercial tool. So people who work, say, in print production or like a paint company where you have to have exact pigment colors, they might use Munsell, for example. Last, we have the color opponents color wheel. I consider this the most important of the color wheels. And as you'll see in just a moment, this color wheel is closest to how we perceive colors in the brain. And there's a reason why it's different from the RGB colors that we use all the time. Now, this color wheel has superior qualities when it comes to color psychology, when it comes to artificial intelligence, also when it comes to color research. Let's now go through the 2 most important color wheels. So that's going to be the color opponency wheel and the printer's color wheel. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of a historical context because I want you to understand where these color wheels came from and how they're actually part of the same structure in our human visual system. So let's take a look. We'll start off with the story of trichromatic vision from Thomas Young and Hermann von Helmholtz. They developed what we now refer to today as trichromatic color theory. So it's the idea that color is produced through three cones in the eyes that perceive red light, green light, and blue light. Not that there's such thing as red, green, and blue light. There's only electromagnetic energy, but we're simplifying things. So this is the dominant color theory that we use, and computer monitors are based on this, right? So for a lot of what we do in digital, it's reproduction with these three colors, or we have the inverse for pigments, which we use in print production. Now, there's another theory that was actually popular at the time, and not a lot of people know about this because for some reason trichromatic dominated and the opponent process model did not. But at the time, there was a big fight with the scientists, and Ewald Hering had color opponent theory. And here's how this works. So the idea of color opponency theory is that there were two channels for color production. So one along this axis was a yellow to blue axis, and the other was a green to red. And so the idea is that you had actually these two channels from which all of our colors that we perceive would be produced. And for many years, there was a big fight. You know how scientists are. They're like, oh, your theory sucks and this is better. And the problem is that in different contexts, trichromatic versus opponent process might make more sense. And what happened is neuroscientists finally settled the debate. And the way they did this is they took a look. So what they had discovered is that both trichromatic and the opponent process theories were both correct, except for they both describe different parts of the human visual system. And here's an example of how it works. So light will come in through the retina, so go into the eyes, and then hit the cones at the back of the eyes and stimulate different light-sensitive cells. So there's light-sensitive cells that respond to what we call red, green, and blue light, even though there's no such thing as red, green, and blue light. It's just electromagnetic energy, as we said. But that's what's stimulated. And so that's why we can replicate red, green, and blue in monitors just with these three colors. But they discovered there's a second step in color processing. Each of these colors are then mapped to two different channels. So that's green to red and blue to yellow. But also there's another mapping to grayscale along with the rods in our eyes, where we're extremely sensitive to just light intensity, which we perceive as grayscale. Through this simple mapping, we can explain the two different color wheels. So on the left, we have the trichromatic color theory and opponent process on the right. If you look at the difference between green to blue on the left and then green to blue on the right, what you'll see is that there's a difference of how much detail. So one is closer, so there's not as many distinct colors between, and another is more stretched out, so there's more. Now, the main difference between trichromatic and opponent is in the area of the yellows. So in the trichromatic, you don't have as much gradation in the yellow area, but you have a lot more in color opponency. Now, this is actually very important when it comes to psychology, because a lot of people believe that human skin color, or I don't know, whatever flash, we say black, we say white, there's different names. So actually none of that's correct. Human skin color is yellow, and it varies in the level of melanin, which darkens skin to protect our DNA, of course. And at the same time, our veins and arteries show oxygenated blood through the skin, which changes our skin tone. And there's a number of other factors. So our skin color is a big hodgepodge, and it's also always in flux. It's constantly moving around, which is actually important for artificial intelligence. So humans read other humans' emotions through subtle fluctuations in skin tone. There's all these studies on attractiveness and things, and a lot of them are actually in the yellow zone. So color opponency is much better for psychology, because a lot of the findings on what accounts for color psychology are humans reading other humans through skin fluctuations and other factors in the environment. But for human emotional associations, they're going to be tied to our skin. So that's why color opponents is interesting. Now, the artificial intelligence algorithms that can read people's emotions and physiological states actually don't work very well with RGB. They work better with color opponents theory. So a lot of data scientists are not even using this. They're using the wrong color system. And one last thing, when it comes to research, a lot of people use the trichromatic RGB colors for research. I think that's actually quite a mistake. So as you'll see, the color opponent model, its main advantage is that when it comes to research, there's two channels. There's the green-red and the yellow-blue. And what that also means is that there's two axes, there's two dimensions. So when it comes to doing color modeling, color mapping, looking at things visually, trying to cut through trends, you will not see it on RGB and you will struggle to map it. But when you use color opponent process, it's beautiful. Colors and trends pop out. Hopefully now you have a better understanding of the different types of color wheels and where they came from and how they're different. But more importantly, if you've ever felt frustrated because color theory and different techniques in applying color don't always work out, well, now you probably understand why. But more importantly, you understand where the rules will probably work and where they won't. And so now you know how to figure out what are the rules for the type of wheel that I'm working with. So hopefully that will help you to become a better designer. If you found this helpful, I would love to get a thumbs up. And if you're interested in content on applying psychology and technology and a little bit more on the psychology of color, well, consider subscribing to my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.